So you'll notice from the outline that the talk today is about laws governing our love of others. Now the reason why I wanted to discuss this subject with you is because what we're finding is a lot of people are doing some emotional processing work, and once they start getting into this emotional processing work, they start having these feelings that they seem to have these feelings that they can pretty much project any emotion in anybody and get away with it, and justifying it through the fact that they're processing their feelings, which is actually releasing something. And what I'd like to, and what the reason why we're covering a lot of these subjects now is we'd like to illustrate to you that that's actually not the case. If you process emotions, and in the process of dealing with different emotions, you purposefully or even unintentionally harm others in the process, right? What you're actually doing is also degrading your own soul condition. So we wanted to have a look at how we can process our emotions in such a way that we don't harm anybody or ourselves further. What I've found is that many have got on the divine love path, started processing the emotions, and then they get to an emotion that's really quite intense, right? An emotion that's covered with a lot of rage or anger and quite intense in terms of its feelings underneath. They have quite a lot of fear maybe about that emotion. And so what they do then is they start projecting their anger and their fear around, but then justifying it as everybody else's law of attraction. Like, I'm angry with you and it's your law of attraction. Right, that kind of justification. Now, when we justify our own unloving behaviour, we're actually in quite a poor soul condition, and we're degrading our soul condition quite rapidly, actually. And this is why I wanted to discuss this subject with you today, as to how to actually work your way through different emotions, bearing in mind the different laws. Now, there is just one thing you need to remember out of all of this, and that is, if you were humble, none of this would happen. Can I say that again? If we were really humble, we wouldn't need to be having this conversation. The reason why is that humility does something. Remember, the definition of humility is a burning desire or passion to feel and experience all of my own emotion. Right? So that's how I define humility. Now, remember that your emotion is a part of your soul. So when you have a burning desire or passion to feel and experience all of your own emotion, you're actually having a burning desire or passion to experience your own self. Or you could say you are actually having a burning desire or passion to love yourself when you're in this state of humility. So this is what we could call humility. Now, if I am in a state of humility, I really don't need to know any laws governing my conduct with others. Can you see why? Because if I'm in this state, I'm always going to be owning all of my own emotions at every moment, and I'm never going to be projecting emotions onto other people. And so therefore, I'm in a state of love when it comes to my relationships with others. Can you see that? So it's quite simple, isn't it? So remember, the divine truth, the actual highest laws, are very, very simple to understand and grasp. Here, it's not so easy sometimes to understand and grasp, but here, they're very simple to understand, but they're not easy to apply. To do that, most of us have a large degree of difficulty. So while that's a very simple statement of what humility is and what humility means, to actually do it in practice is often so difficult that we get caught up in so many different really dark emotions that we finish up not practicing humility. And so we need to be reminded at times about the laws that involve our love of others. Now, remember yesterday, one of the things I said was that there were the lowest laws, which were the ones to do with the physical and metaphysical. Remember that? The other things like the law of gravity, the law of aerodynamics, and a lot of things about your own body and how it works, and all of these other things are all part of the laws of the physical, or the laws of the metaphysical. And remember I said to you that, while many of us have a big wow factor with them when somebody can manipulate them, in the end, from God's perspective, they're not that important. And then remember I said that the next level of laws were the laws involving the morality, or the laws of natural love. And the laws of natural love are far more important in your own practice, in your own life, than understanding the laws of metaphysics, for example. And in fact, once you perfect the laws of natural love, ironically, the metaphysics of your own body all become perfect as a part of the process. So in other words, once you perfect all of the laws of natural love, all of your chakras in your body will remain completely open at all times, and your body will be able to regenerate and heal at any time. You won't ever get sick again, and so forth. That automatically happens when you understand and practice all of the laws of natural love. Now remember I also said that there's the laws above that, which are the laws of divine love, which are the highest possible laws. But the process that we often follow when we're progressing is that we're coming from this place where we don't really understand love at all. I really don't know love, at all. That's the feeling we have, right? So we start off with this, I really don't know love at all, and I'm coming from this place of not really knowing love at all to this place where I'll be able to understand love completely. Firstly, understand natural love completely, and then understand divine love completely, right? So when we're starting off at this place where we're not really understanding love at all, and we're working towards this place where we'll eventually understand love completely, obviously we're going to make mistakes. And so we need to see how these mistakes affect us. So the purpose of today's discussion is to help you understand how the mistakes you have in practicing love actually affect you, and what you can do to actually circumvent these things from occurring by basically practicing humility. So although it's not said in the outline, I wanted to state right at the beginning that if you practice humility, you will not need to understand the rest of our discussion today. But for the majority of us, we can't practice humility completely, because the time when we do that is when we're at one with God. And until that time, we're learning even humility and how to practice that, which is this burning desire or passion to feel and experience all of our own emotions. So can you see how even the laws of divine love encompass so much? So this law of divine love, and humility is one of the laws of divine love, it just encompasses so much in terms of natural love, because that one law sort of gets rid of or throws out the need to understand like tens or 15s or hundreds of natural love laws, right? But today what we'll be doing is going through some of these natural love laws so you can see the effect in your life. Sometimes too, understanding these natural love laws helps you a lot in seeing where you're out of harmony with God. Because a lot of times what we're doing is we're progressing towards God a bit, and then we get to this place where we're in a stuck emotion, right? We're feeling quite stuck. And in that place, we don't often know why we're stuck. We don't often know why our relationship with God isn't improving. And it's often because we are breaking something, or breaking some kind of law, and not necessarily being aware of it, that causes us to be in this place of stagnation. So it is sometimes good for us to understand what that law is and why we're breaking it and how it relates to our relationship with God. And hopefully our discussion today will help with that a bit as well. So this whole process of discussing the laws that govern your interrelationships, and particularly your relationships with others, and remember the next time we get together we'll be discussing your love of yourself, the laws that actually govern the love of yourself. And you'll actually find that the two sets of laws that govern both are the same. They're just applied differently, obviously, because one is the object of our love, somebody else, whereas the other is the object of our self-love, which is obviously ourselves. So what we want to do is illustrate both of them to you, and then what we'll do is we'll put it all together in the following discussion in terms of when we discuss relationships. So when we discuss romantic relationships, like how to actually have relationships that have love happening, and what to do in relationships when things are going wrong. And you'll see all of these laws all just come out quite easily when you start examining relationships. However, even with all of that discussion, if you remind yourself of humility, you will never need to know or understand all of these other laws, really. And that's something to just keep in mind. So that being said, what we're going to do is firstly just briefly describe the law. Now, each one of these laws I could spend 4 or 5 hours discussing with you. So obviously we're not going to be doing that. We're going to have a brief description of the law. We'll have a look at how it can be put into practice, how it affects yourself and others when you break it, and then we'll look at examples of what will go on with each one of these laws. Does that sound all right? And feel free to ask any questions about the laws as we go through.